Hello and welcome to another An Old Man Watches, and today, in honour of the season, I'm going to be talking about Santa Claus Conquers the Martians from 1964. And the premise of this film is that for centuries, Martians have been raised only to be productive and useful. They have an extremely utilitarian society. And that's always worked fine until the latest generation of Martian children who have grown up being able to watch TV broadcasts from Earth. And all of these kids have become listless and depressed. And the Martian leaders are obviously very concerned about this. And so the leader of their society goes to consult the most ancient and wise of his people. And this ancient wise one tells him that children need to have joy in their lives, and Martian children don't have any, and he needs to give them joy. And the Martian leader's plan for this is simple. He's going to kidnap Santa Claus, because, that's what gives kids joy on Earth, and therefore they're going to kidnap Santa Claus, bring him to Mars, and the Martian kids will be happy. So it's off to the North Pole we go, after first picking up two children from Earth as basically Santa sniffing devices. Apparently, like kids can sniff out the real Santa. I don't know. Anyway, the quest to capture Santa and what happens after he gets to Mars are the basis for the movie's allegedly sort of humorous shenanigans. So that's what this film is all about. What is there to talk about with regards to the movie? Well, there's a few things, as you might imagine. So first of all, if you look on the Wikipedia page for the list of the list of films considered the worst, that's the actual title of the page. If you type worst film movies of all time, then a link to the film will come up in Google. A link to the page will come up in Google. From the moment that this film came out, it's had a reputation as a buffoonish slapstick movie with terrible acting, laughable effects, and an absurd, nonsensical plot. And let's be honest, it's all of those things. But look, on the other hand, it's also a movie for kids under 10, and more importantly, for all of its technical shortcomings, it's not tedious. This is at least a movie that has a plot and a purpose and understands what they are. It might have a hackneyed script and bad acting and silly effects and be made on the cheap. But, at least knows where it's going, and it's not boring about getting there. It's 10 times as entertaining as a movie like White Pongo. And to be frank, I've watched plenty of movies that were as technically bad as this one, but that were also far more boring and much harder to sit through. Now, those films aren't on the Wikipedia list of films considered the worst because they simply aren't sufficiently well known, and there's a very good reason for that. I will at some time, in the future, talk about some of those movies, and they are astonishingly inept. Far more inept than this. But this was sufficiently high profile to kind of, garner a reputation of being a terrible, terrible movie. And it is a bad film, let's be honest. But, as I said, I've watched far worse in my time and will doubtless do so again in the future. The second thing I want to talk about is that one of the central conceits of this film, obviously, is that Santa is real. And I kind of understand why they've gone that way. The target audience is kids under 10. Santa's real. But the fact that it's the real Santa doesn't really matter that much to the plot, except to justify picking up a couple of human kids to be audience surrogates. That's why there are human kids in this film. It's to give the kids watching it someone to identify with. But the fact that they find the real Santa doesn't really matter all that much. And it makes me wonder if a Galaxy Quest style approach would not actually generate a better movie. Martians come to Earth, they grab a department store Santa, and he then has to try and resolve the situation without any of the magical abilities of real Santa. Bonus points if said Santa is a grumpy misanthrope who has his heart softened by cute Martian and or human kiddies. Because schmaltz is fine in small doses, and Galaxy Quest has some schmaltz. It works because Galaxy Quest is a fun movie that knows what it's doing. That approach would let the movie skew a little bit older in general, or at least to sneak in some more grown-up friendly content. I think it's a truism that to be a really great kids film, the film has to at least be tolerable for adults. And one of the big problems for Santa Claus Conquers the Martians is that it's so resolutely fixated on being good for kids under 10 that it ignores any attempt to be kind of like even remotely tolerable for anybody outside that age range. And that is it is a weakness of the film. Finally, Pia Zadora, which is a name you may not have heard. But this film is the cinematic debut of Ms. Zadora, playing one of the Martian children. She was only about 10 or 11 years old at the time. And, her appearance in this movie attracted no attention whatsoever at the time, because no one had ever heard of her, and the role was pretty minor. About 20 years later, however, it won Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, added notoriety, for nothing to do with the actual movie itself. You see, in 1982, Zadora won the Golden Globe Award as Best New Star of the Year, for her role in the film Butterfly, a performance that most critics had lambasted with terms like, and I'm quoting here, spectacularly inept. She won 2 Golden Raspberry Awards in the same year as she won the Golden Globe Award. And the controversy over all this, including accusations that her wealthy husband had bought the award, retroactively further associated Santa Claus Conquers the Martians with cinematic incompetence and just reinforced its existing bad reputation. So, it's kind of unfortunate for the makers of this film that they cast this, this young girl who they knew nothing about, really, because 20 years later, she would be embroiled in a controversy that, just further cemented that, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians must be terrible because Pia Zadora is in it. It's got nothing to do with her, basically. She's got a pretty minor role, but it's just something else that has kind of tainted the film's reputation and is an interesting anecdote. So that is Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, in honour of the season. I'm not recommending necessarily that you go out and watch it unless you have a penchant for these kind of terrible, terrible things. If you do watch it. It's worth your time, and it's, as I said, a lot less boring than some of the alternatives that you might end up seeing. Next time, I'm going to talk about a movie that I probably like more than it deserves, which is the 2002 Resident Evil film, starring Milla Jovovich, Michelle Rodriguez, Colin Salmon as well. We'll be talking about that, what it's got going for it, what it doesn't have going for it, why I like it, even though perhaps technically it's not actually all that good. Hopefully you'll come back for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching this one, and I hope you enjoyed it.